Hi everyone, welcome back to Life After BIZ, what no one tells you, where we go ahead and uncover the realities of life after graduation. I'm Andrew, an MBA student of the class of 2026. Now, you can see that it's a little bit different here. Your host may look a bit different because we're switching things up a little bit. We're turning the tables. Right now, instead of having your usual host, who you might be familiar with from the previous episodes here, we've actually got her in the hot seat. So today we have Master's Management, class of 2025, and currently a Sustainability Market Analyst. We have, ladies and gentlemen, Pranati Trivedi.
Hi, Andrew. Very nice
Hey,
to be here. Very
good to
refreshing to
have
be on the
you.
other side.
I bet. How does it feel? How does it feel?
Just feel a bit different. I constantly feel like I'm missing the iPad. I should be interviewing you.
Right, do you want to have?
No, I'm good.
Well, in any case, it's really great to have you here. I bet the viewers at home really want to get to know you more as well as your post-graduation journey. So, hey, Masters of Management class of 2025, we have Sustainability Market Analyst. Can you tell us more about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Pranati, like I mentioned. I've been in Singapore now for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a good jump from being academia now into the consulting
Yeah,
world
I
and
bet.
professional, and also in an industry that I technically don't have any academic experience in.
Hmm.
So there's a steep learning curve, but I think I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I'm learning a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm being exposed to a lot of different projects and skills that I feel like I otherwise wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been good so far. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
excited to talk about it now.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and get to the heart of the matter.
Okay.
I noticed you actually come from Mumbai.
Yeah,
You
that's
studied
right.
earlier in your bachelor's in St. Xavier's College, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Bachelor's of BA, Bachelor's of Arts in Economics
And statistics. Yes.
and Statistics.
Yeah.
There we go. So wait, does that mean you took macroeconomics? Sorry, macroeconometrics.
Yeah, I took macroeconomics, econometrics, microeconomics, all of that.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I took econometrics. It's a mouthful,
Yeah,
ladies
it
and
is.
gentlemen.
The curriculum is as well. So.
Yeah, oh my word. Trying to swallow that was
Yeah.
intense. But how'd you end up from Mumbai to Singapore? Like what brought you here?
So I was considering a lot of countries, right, when I was doing my undergrad.
Mhm.
Typically, I was trying to chart out how the rest of my life would look, how
Yeah.
I want my career to look. But I think COVID really burst a bubble in
Yeah.
everyone's lives, I
Yeah.
think. So I think one of the key lessons that I took from COVID, I guess, is that it's important to have access to home and family.
Yeah.
I think that's the weight that does come with it. And I decided that I do need to be around close enough.
Yeah.
And also from a more career perspective, I spoke to a lot of mentors, a lot of peers,
Mhm.
and did my own research as well, right? And I realized that if you really want to be at the heart of acceleration in terms of career, education,
Mhm.
cultural
Mhm.
collaboration, I think I realized that Asia is the place to be,
Truly.
especially after COVID, when all economies were trying to get back on track.
Mhm.
I think it really drove home the point that Asia and a lot of countries within Asia, whether they're developed or developing, they're really at the forefront of that change. And they're able to charge ahead in terms of production, in terms of economy,
Yeah.
in terms of employability, and also lifestyle.
Yes.
So taking all of that into account, I realized that I think I want to be in Asia, and then Singapore naturally checked all the boxes in terms of, finance opportunities, education, and also when it comes to the access in terms of language barriers. I think all of that considered, and obviously it has a lot of the top-rated educational institutions as well. So yeah, then Singapore became the natural next choice, I guess.
There we go. There we go. Was Singapore the only one that checked all the boxes?
Not really. I do think a lot of countries, if we're talking specifically from Asia, the point of view, I do think there are a lot of other countries that also are worthy to be considered.
Right.
But I do think you have to take into account your own background, your own profile,
Right.
your language proficiencies,
Right.
right? And so until then, my language proficiency was very heavily reliant on English and a little bit of the Western languages, not so much Asian. So I was like, okay, it's a good chance for me to also brush up some new skills,
Yeah.
and then also put myself at the center of it all. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Completely makes sense. But moving forward, right? You're coming here to Singapore. You're looking for an opportunity in a region with high growth, high career impact, ever changing, always at the forefront of the trends and the market.
Yeah.
Masters in management.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Why that? Why not the
Yeah.
MBA? Why not find a job here? Like, what drove you specifically to a master's in management in NUS?
I think the decision was really rooted in practicality and was
Yeah.
propelled a lot by my profile and my strengths.
Yeah.
So intrinsically, over the years, before I came to Singapore, I realized that I have a lot of managerial abilities. And coming from an economics and statistics background,
Yeah.
I realized I wanted to put myself through a business boot camp of sorts because I wanted to leverage skills that would allow me to be mobile throughout my career. Because at the base of it all, irrespective of companies, irrespective of industries, the language of business does remain constant. And that was what I was essentially looking for. I didn't want to box myself already right at the very beginning of my career. So I think that played a really important role in influencing my decision in taking a master's in management. Yeah.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But through that master's in management, you were able to secure, I've seen like 2 internships during your time here. How did that go about? How, you coming into a new country, into a new life, what was going through your head thinking, you know what, I'm going to pursue internships. I'm going to pursue 2 internships at the end of the day.
No, so I think everybody is aware that internships do play a very key role in a graduate's life. But I think what I was also looking to do is get real industry exposure and really bridge the gap between what you learn in the classroom and what you can learn actually on the ground. And like I said, my decision to take management was all about trying to have skills that I could apply anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think I used a similar lens for my internships because both industries are very different. One is maritime, one is the built environment. Both industries that I didn't have the academic expertise, so to speak, but I wanted to see how sustainability could be tied into such technical industries, right? Because when you think about sustainability, you do think about only ESG, you think only about sustainable reports, but there's much more to that. And I realized only when I started working in these companies and working in the projects. It was also a lot about just putting myself in situations and events that I didn't say no to.
Yeah.
Both internships came along in a very unconventional manner, but I think that just drives home the point that you should just say yes and just go to different industry events, go to networking events, and just strike up conversations with people, even though you might not necessarily be looking for an internship or job at the end of the day, but you never know what door or window could open.
Sorry, you said unconventional.
Yeah.
Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so they weren't necessarily in a way where I apply on LinkedIn and I hear back from somebody.
Right.
I think both internships happened in settings where I was just networking about with different people.
Okay.
And they weren't essentially coffee chats either. I was just in a room full of people from different industries, people with different backgrounds.
Yeah.
I just happened to strike up conversations with key managers that were at the center of decision making and just started a conversation about what they do, what the company's about, what their challenges are, and how sustainability is. Do they think that's a priority in their company?
Yeah.
What's going on with that? So just trying to get a deeper idea about all of that. And then just so happened that a few months down the line, I ended up getting a call from them asking if I was interested in just interning and seeing what it was all about. So I think that's when I realized it was very funny because both events actually I was hesitant to go to because I was like, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should finish my project. But I decided to just follow a friend of mine and just open doors.
That's, my goodness. I want to take the time right now to really ask a hard-hitting question, right? Because such a circumstance is tremendously opportune. It's amazing that you were able to meet the right people and open the right doors and eventually, prepare and learn and say the right things to be able to get that phone call months later.
Correct.
How much of it do you think was what you were able to show that you could bring to the table that day during those events? And how much do you think of it was just luck?
Right. No, that's a great question, actually, especially in the current economy and job market that's highly competitive. And it's very selective. It's not necessarily closed, but it is selective.
Yeah.
So I think definitely luck was that I found myself in those places. I found myself talking to those people. And I think the key shift happened when I just decided to ask questions that really mattered to me and to what I wanted to know.
Okay.
Because I didn't necessarily go there with the intention of, oh, please give me a job, please give me an internship. Of course, I'd like that. That would be a great, ideal way to end the conversation. But I think it was also about trying to understand that what kind of roles do I see myself doing?
Yeah.
What are my expectations and what's really the reality? Do I like this role or do I like the idea of it only? right? And all of that, I think, shows initiative when you ask questions, because when in networking events and internships, I believe these are the two places where you're expected to ask questions that say, I don't know what this is and I don't know how this works, so could you explain it to me? I think it's expected and it's even appreciated. So I just try to use these platforms to just get as much information as I could, really pick up on and try to find out during their discussions, what's the gap that exists within that team, within the company? How can I possibly align myself with the company's goals? Or maybe I spot like a little bit of a problem in the team and maybe they're really busy and I decide maybe I can take on that problem. I can pitch myself there and say, I see this is an issue. Maybe I can take it out for you. Maybe I can work with you on that. So yeah, I think it was a mix of both. So once you realize that you have a platform, I think it's important that you shift that and learn how to pitch yourself.
Right. It's really about tackling the other person's pain points.
Yeah,
with
definitely.
what you can bring to the table. It's
Exactly.
essentially just that.
Yeah, you have to align yourself. At the end of the day, you really do have to sell yourself, but that doesn't mean you just keep talking about your strengths. It does mean, how can I be of use to you? How can I be important to you? And how can I get something out of you as well? It's a give and take.
Truly is. As with business.
Yeah, that's true.
And we see that it worked out in the end. You were able to nail down a sustainability market analyst position.
Yeah.
How do you think the internship helped to affect your journey after graduation? You know, when you were searching for these internships, when you were participating and working through these internships, what do you think was the handful of things that really propelled you to where you are now?
Right.
And what carried you through these internships? Was it, be it capabilities, be it experiences and knowledges from the past, be it existing, one could say biases or ways of thoughts that really meshed well to the point that you were able to secure this position?
Yeah. I think when you're in an internship, it's a good time to view it more as a long-form audition.
Yeah.
Because you have a limited time at the company and you're trying to show that you can integrate yourself well with the company.
Right.
So a couple of things that I think they're not something that people haven't heard of. I think everybody keeps talking about them, but I do believe that when you're assigned tasks, it kind of gets pushed to the back because you're more focused on completing what you've been assigned to do or finishing the deadline or just replying back to that email. But I think these are very understated ways of ensuring that you get some visibility, right? And I think one of them is the fact that you take on unassigned initiatives. I think at the end of the internships, what I tried to showcase throughout the entire time was that the pain points, like you mentioned, or some problems that were faced, I took them on upon myself and tried to see if I could be the one who could maybe automate it or maybe get something to the table that maybe I solve it for them.
Right.
It's about trying to show that the cost of losing you, is much more than the cost of hiring you or replacing you at the end of the day. You need to show that you're indispensable. And that can happen only if you try to go beyond what you're assigned. And that, I think, also tying back to what I said previously, it also comes back to asking questions and sitting with the managers and saying, where's the company heading, or what do they think something could be different, and trying to understand how you could mesh well with the company.
Yeah.
And another thing I think was really important as well is the appetite for more knowledge. I think it's easy once you get the internship or once you get the job to have that sigh of relief, and I think you should definitely give yourself that. But then don't get too comfortable either. I think going in industries that I didn't particularly have experience in really taught me that I constantly need to upskill myself. I constantly need to know more about the industry, more about the trends, more about what the team could be doing, where it's heading, and where the company could possibly align itself to be a market leader.
Yeah.
And I think showcasing these couple of qualities really helps to stand out, and something that I actively tried to do while I was interning with these companies.
Yeah. Prior you studied economics, so it's about opportunity costs. It's about what you stand to gain and what you stand to lose. Internships.
Right.
A lot of individuals coming into either the MBA program or the master's program, they have a mindset of either overestimating or underestimating internships. And of course, there's going to be a lot of debates, a lot of topics on both sides of the situation. Right. But for you, what do you stand to lose? Like, what are you giving up if you are pursuing internships as a part of achieving the path that you want to take after graduation? And was it worth it for you?
Wow. Okay. Very thought-provoking question. I think it can be summed up with one of my favorite quotes.
Ooh.
Like the cost of anything you do is the quality of life that you exchange for it, right? And I understand that we've got a very limited time here, and everybody wants to do so much. And especially in this era where you're asked to ensure that you show up at work, you're also setting up coffee chats, you're also taking care of your health, you've got your protein and fiber intake in, you're getting your family time. I think there's so much that we have to do that really gets overwhelming for grads, especially young grads and students who are just entering in the corporate world. But I think what is important to understand is that there's no perfect time for anything.
Yeah.
It's important to realize that at some point of time, you're going to have to get your foot in the door. So you just need to start. So you don't need to have internships that are right off the bat the best internships.
Okay.
I think you need to find internships that you think will help you accelerate your skills and help you get in the right industries, in the right circles. And if you do that and you find yourself in companies that really encourage that kind of workplace and that kind of culture, you realize that you might not be missing out on too much at the end of the day. It also boils down to priorities. What's really important for someone might not really hold very high in their list for someone else. So I think get your foot in the door, start small, I'd say, and just do something. I think starting small in any field will help you do something or the other instead of feeling that you're just putting all your eggs in one basket and you're losing out on life or everything else. If you start small in every arena that you want to, you might just find yourself being able to balance time well. Yeah, and audit your time. I think auditing is a very important thing.
Okay.
We want to do it all, but at the same time, we're not very good with time management. So it's important that you figure out where you're losing out the most time on, because a lot of areas you really don't need to be spending so much time on. 2 hours on social media is really not needed. You could use that 1 hour to do something else. It could be volunteering. It could be setting up a coffee chat with someone, or it could be just going to the gym. Anything, what is important to you. So,
or it could be, watching one of the Life After Biz podcast shows.
Yeah, it's not even an hour. That's just 20 minutes. So, definitely. But yeah, I think it's important that you take into consideration what your priorities are. And while someone might not want to do any internships, you might want to do some. So you can't then compare yourself to that other person.
There we go. Yeah.
You can't expect that you get the same thing out of life that they do. You don't know the full story for them.
Yeah.
Maybe they already know what they want to do, or maybe this is just how they want to ensure that the university life goes. There's no right and wrong per se.
Yeah.
It's really dependent on where a person sees themselves. So honestly, maybe just focus on your lane.
You know what they say, comparison is the thief of joy.
It is the utmost thief of joy. Number one, I'd say. Yeah.
So, some students actually feel, there's a lot of discourse about this online, and I bet the conversation about it really changes from east to west to different stages in the education sector, right? But some individuals believe, or at least they claim, they want that universities play a bigger role in helping the students, helping the new graduates search for opportunities. Now, some believe, of course, instead of university, it should be governments. Instead of the government, some believe it should be corporations. Now, what are your thoughts on that, as someone who has already gone through the process?
Right. Yeah. Very saucy question. But
I bet,
I've been on both sides, so I do think I can speak to it a bit. I think everyone is a little bit worried about how the market navigates, what the economy means for them. So especially in today's economy, when it's quite competitive, I think what students are looking for is that universities step up a bit and give them tools to become more visible and become employable. That doesn't mean that you have to guarantee them a job, you have to guarantee them an internship,
right?
But it does mean that in this day and age, how can I, as a student of your institution, how can I set myself apart? Because everybody is trying to put themselves out there. So I think that is what most, I would say, maybe universities could adapt to. Because what worked 10 years back when, they were just looking at the name of university or your GPA, that really doesn't work anymore. They're looking, employers are looking for a lot beyond that as well. And understandably so. Business has changed, markets have changed, so you can't really just work on what you have learned in the classroom. And maybe connecting them a little bit to the outside corporations,
Right.
getting them in touch with a few more employers, few more companies, rather than having them to do the work all the time. But on the flip side as well, I do think young grads also need to keep in mind that that just because you're in an institution doesn't mean that you have to come up with a job from the institution at the end of the day. It does, like I said, because they're not looking at just your university anymore, you also have to ensure that you have some brand of yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Like a manager once told me that when I cut everything apart from you and it's just you, who are you? How are you going to pitch yourself to me apart from your jobs, your internships, your course? Who are you as a brand? And that can come only when you work on yourself and you have a portfolio for yourself. So I think it's important that students also do that, because when you have that ready, and when you are able to find who you really are, and then you work with the university and the different resources that they give, it should be a little bit easier for you to have a platform.
Right.
Yeah.
So more visibility, maybe like profile books or other means and methods to help enhance a student's essentially how they present themselves to corporations.
Definitely.
And also ensuring like the curriculum is updated to what market
Yes.
needs are right now.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. It's a lot more than just having maybe a career hub or resources that help you with your resume. I think in this AI world, everyone's able to do that. You know, they can just plug in their resume and get some ATS verified words out, right? But like you mentioned, it has to be a lot more beyond that. So when you're actively learning about things that matter right now, you're able to translate that when you're sitting in front of a hiring manager. You're able to say that, yes, what I learned in the classroom, this is how I'm going to translate it for you.
There's one thing I want to ask you about. I'm pretty sure our listeners at home would be really interested in hearing about this, because a lot of times going into master's program, into MBA programs, we always have this idea of coming out of it, oh, we need to be in like a Procter & Gamble, we need to be in a Unilever, we need to be in a Johnson & Johnson, MNCs. You came out and you did your internships and eventually found a position in an SME. Could you help to share more? How did it come to that? Why a SME? What are the benefits that you see and you believe come from being able to pursue a career in an SME versus an MNC?
Yeah, I really like this question because it's something that I had biases about as well, naturally, because when I was a student, I was like, oh, I have to go for the best companies.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can get stability, and that's the only way I ensure that I'm set for life.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, no, because the economy dictates that you might just be laid off anytime irrespective of your company, right? But on a more micro level, I did an internship at an SME and I did an internship at an MNC. So I think I was able to properly have like a pros and cons list at the end of the day, which really influenced my decision to then ultimately join an SME. I think when you're starting out in your career, if you're getting an opportunity to do more than just execute a task, I think you should take it. What I realized is people have biases against SMEs because they think they're too small for you to have any sort of impact. It's too small for you to really be showing up and doing something that could actually make waves. They think that's not possible. They think it's only possible in a big company. But that's actually not true. It's to the contrary, in fact, because when you're an SME, oftentimes you have to don a lot of hats. And because of that, you're given a lot of projects you can work on. You're put in meetings that otherwise you might not be a part of. And you're actively in touch and close to decision makers. You're able to see how the leadership is making strategic decisions. You're that close. So I think that proximity really helps in gaining skills and exposure that you otherwise wouldn't if you were in a bigger company, because they do have the manpower, they do have resources. So a lot more would happen behind closed doors. I would never discount the fact that you shouldn't work at an MNC. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of perks that come with that as well. But strictly speaking, from the perspective of someone who's an early career professional and someone who wanted to have impact and gain skills very early on, I think I realized that I would like to be more than just a doer, and I would like to be at the center of strategy, at the center of making decisions and picking up on skills and having active conversations with clients, with different kinds of industry leaders. And I think that's where I thought an SME really helped. Many times in an MNC, you do have work to do, you do have tasks assigned to you. But if I were to liken it, it would be more like you have a page that you have to do.
Yeah.
You don't have the context of the before and the after. It's just one page in a book.
Mm-hmm.
You will work your way up one day or the other where you're able to maybe be the author of the book.
Yeah.
But at the very beginning, when you're trying to absorb as much as you can, when you're still starting out in the professional world, I think being able to understand the context of decisions and why a certain path was taken or a certain collaboration was done, I think that really helped in building my decision-making skills, my multitasking skills, and the fact that I'm just able to do a lot more in this SME compared to an MNC. Yeah.
Yeah, it really does also seem more like a, well, I would hazard to say generational, but also a historical thing. You know, as we grow, we look at our parents, and when they're finding jobs, even back then, it was always, you know, you always have to aim for the MNCs. It helps to solidify your chances for like for career progression, or you get that sense of stability. That is potentially is one of the perks.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned, it's not the only valid path. You know, moving forward, there's a lot of other opportunities with SMEs, especially for those who want to grow fast.
Yeah, correct. I mean, if you're really looking to have very important roles early on in your career and not wait for the 5-year, 10-year mark in a company, then it makes sense for you to already start putting yourself in situations where from the get-go, you're put in situations that have actual consequences, and you just have to force yourself to learn all of that. And I mean, if ultimately at the end of the day, you're looking to be part of a startup or you want your own startup, you will need those skills. You're not going to you can't wait around all the time. You're going to need to take decisions quickly. You're going to have to ensure that you know how to connect with people, that you ensure that you're able to multitask because your plate is so full. So yeah, I think if those are your priorities, then I would recommend you do look into an SME and not close yourself off just because you want the brand name. I understand brand names play a role, but at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, do you just want to check on the resume? You just want to check on the box? Or you do really want to get some skills? And if it's honestly an opportunity that you do think you can get something out of it, don't let the fact that it's not an MNC stop you from going ahead with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that you're also really big on volunteer work. How did that come about? Was that driven by your desire to move into the sustainability space, or was your search for, you know, opportunities in the sustainability space, you know, led you to these volunteers? Like, what's the relationship between the two?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think volunteering doesn't come as a spur of I want to save the world superhero moment.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot based on what you see in proximity to you, when you see people and their lived experiences and see the shortage in them in terms of whether that be, you know, environmental health, or that is food insecurity, financial insecurity, education resources, and you compare that to yourself and you realize, I do have the tools, that's time, that's your voice, that's some actions to help narrow the gap, right? And I think from a young age, the whole concept of volunteering was really instilled in me. You know, a lot of the early childhood birthdays were spent volunteering. And I think it was also my university back home that really encouraged the importance of volunteering. In fact, it was a credit-bearing thing that we had to do. Yeah, you wouldn't graduate if you didn't volunteer and give back to society. And I think that was a good way of really understanding that while you are busy taking resources to help yourself have a better tomorrow, it's important that you give back as well. And when I volunteered, I realized that that's one of the first real-world experiences you have to the fragility of the systems around us. And that's when I realized when volunteering, sustainability isn't just a buzzword, it's a critical mission that we need and that society needs to integrate in its operations. So while volunteering, I realized that if I'm able to get that into my job and help be at the center of building systems that could be sustainable, that would be a good way to ensure that while the career is the engine, it's my values and ethics that are the steering wheel, so to speak.
Yeah. All right. So as we wrap up for today, is there anything that you would like to share more about, like plug to the audience about volunteering, or about something that you're really passionate in, be it in sustainability or even outside of sustainability? Anything else you want to share with the audience?
I think considering that I was in a job seeking scenario just over a year back, I think what I'd like to tell young grads especially is to just, I know everybody says be persistent, and I'm sure they are being persistent, but also don't say no to opportunities just because it might not be your ideal right now.
Yeah.
It's always better to do to do a job that might not be as ideal, but at least you're getting actual industry experience.
Yeah.
Instead of just waiting around for the perfect job to fall in your lap. That's not going to happen. So maybe just start small, like I said, say yes to a couple of roles, say yes to a couple of opportunities, work your way around, and ultimately what you will find your passion and you will find the right company, the right culture for you.
Well, there you have it. Thank you very much, Pranati, for coming down today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and attention as you go ahead and stay tuned for more Life After Biz. You know what they don't tell you in the first place. So go ahead and check out the full episode on our IG and YouTube. And don't forget to follow the Instagram at NUS BIZAlum for more reels, more stories, and more information about what you should know after graduation.